All right, welcome to the Paving America podcast, the very first podcast for Pave America. And we have Zach Molesky here, president of National Pavement Partners. And then what a perfect guest to start off the very first podcast, the president of Pave America, Mr. Paul Garner.
Thank you. I think you could have done a little bit better with Tom York, maybe.
Maybe a little one-upper there.
You could have done that. Save him for a finale or something.
All right, we can do that to kind of close out the chapter. So, well, welcome. We're really excited to do this. We're going to shed some light on Pave America as a platform. There's so many great subsidiary companies and presidents and sales managers that have such good insight that we're just going to be super excited to share that with you. And the goal is to make, I think for me personally, is make the community, the paving community better. You know, contracting has had a lot of negative stipulation and connotation in the past, and what I'm continually amazed by is the sharp minds of the business owners, of the presidents, of the sales managers. So want to continue to prove that and hopefully help somebody else. So what I'd like to do is just jump in right to your story. You know, what's your background? How did you get into asphalt and concrete?
Well, go all the way back. I'll share just a little bit. My first foray into the industry was actually just as straight up labor. So I had graduated, gone to college, played a little bit of football, not very well, and it was Canadian football, so it's more like
not the same, right?
Not the same. But I came home to earn some money, and I worked for a guy who was a contractor. He built irrigation structures, concrete irrigation structures. So you had to do that in the winter in Canada because that's when all the water freezes. And you're able to get in there and actually do the work. And so I tied rebar. In minus 20, minus 30 degree weather. I moved rebar, made forms, created forms. We built little bridges and dams for irrigation structures. I tell my kids now, right, whenever they think they've got it hard. My boss at that time was a great guy, and he said he made us work every day unless it got below minus 40 degrees. He said that we didn't have to work. And so every day we'd show up and be like, hey, boss, it's windy, it's cold out there. I think it's below minus 40. He's like, guys, minus 39, let's go.
39
so it was great. There. So I got real good at tying rebar. You know, we tied it all by hand. But anyways, that's kind of my background. I ran a landscaping business. I started when I was a kid. So kind of the services and the trades was something that was always in my blood. Me and my brother started that. You know, I started at an early age, you know, knocking on people's doors, asking them for services, following up, doing collections. You know, as a 12-year-old, I'm going to people and asking them, hey, you got to pay your bills. You know, buying equipment, understanding CapEx at a young age, obviously very, very small scale, but it was a very positive experience. So I think some of those things translated. But then, you know, I took quite a hiatus, did some education, did some schooling, some entrepreneurial pursuits. And ultimately, a mentor of mine introduced me to a couple guys that were running a company called Brothers Paving and Concrete. And he said, hey, these guys could use some help. They're doing some stuff in the technology world, and you seem to be like a pretty big nerd, so maybe you could help them out. And so I said, yeah, sure. So anyways, that's how I got involved. So I had a phone call with the time, it was Sean Boyce, and said, hey, I hear you've got some technology you're working with in paving and you could use a hand. And he said, yeah, why don't you come in? So went in and got started. That was kind of Pavement Soft.
Oh, okay.
So they had started to kind of build out Pavement Soft internally, but we're looking to do more with it. So take it into the cloud, make it a commercial tool. At that point, it was just internal. So I came in, we did some things, redeveloped, kind of set a new scope, set a path, and started to go down it. At the same time, I worked at the company itself, right? Just being in a company like that was so refreshing to me from where I'd been previously. And you see all of these opportunities to grow, wonderful things that can be done in organizations and service-type organizations like you guys have done yourselves. And I saw that opportunity. I just saw a huge opportunity. And I'd go to these trade shows for Pavement Soft, and I'd meet all these contractors, or I'd start helping them implementing software, change management, getting into processes and procedures, and it was just so invigorating. You know, it's such 100%. A good industry. You guys know this. This industry is lots of good, hardworking people.
It is.
Honest people.
It is.
And so that's kind of my background, my whole full story. That's kind of how I got started into it. But it's really been so enjoyable for me to be a part of the industry. and to work with people who just like working hard. It's how I grew up. It's what I know. It's what I love. And I'm very grateful to.
It really is an industry where you get what you put into it.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. You mentioned when you first got into the industry, what Brothers was like, and it was so much different than what you were used to. Talk about what culture is and how that felt, and, you know, if that opened any eyes for you at all. What was that like?
Yeah, culture has been such an important part of everything that I've done. But you know, I was able to be involved in some really interesting entrepreneurial type businesses and some growth stuff and some startup stuff. And culture is different, right? And I never really aligned with the culture at those organizations. A lot of them were free flowing or didn't have a lot of form and function. And, you know, it's like a touchy-feely stuff.
Yeah.
So coming into the services space, right, it's like you got to go, you got to make it happen. There's real results. There's real consequences. We're dealing with safety. So some of that kind of soft stuff goes out the window, right? Like it's not all like beanbag chairs and ping pong tables anymore.
Yeah, nap pods.
Right. It's a little bit different, but it's still so crucial and important, right? Knowing that we are a team and that we're together and I've got your back, you've got my back. Those things are so crucial. And I'd say culture is a huge part of what I was involved with in the early days and continue to be a part of today, is building that culture of unity and oneness, and really helping to establish clear communication. I found that to be a big challenge in the industry. It's just communicating.
It's huge.
Holding people accountable.
Yep.
You know, I remember being a part of a couple businesses that I was helping and consulting on the software side. And, you know, you go in and they'd be like, how can we get better? And I'm like, well, what's your goal for the year? And they'd be like, well, we don't have one.
They don't have one.
And it's like, that's where culture starts, right? What's the vision? Where are you going? What are you doing?
Yep.
I think that's where a lot of the culture starts,
I
is
agree.
with that vision.
And then how do you translate that over to everybody else in the community
Yeah.
to make sure we're all rowing in the same direction,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, like you said, it's the soft skills, the culture part of it is put on the back burner a lot of times with contracting companies because it is go, go, go. It's a little bit more, you know, blue collar kind of guys. So guys that don't want to talk about our feelings and, you know, be buddy. And but what I think we've realized is as we've progressed and been able to kind of expand ourselves as leaders of the company, now you have the bandwidth to start focusing on that. But early on in the early days, it's really hard because you're just kind of fighting for your life every day, putting out fires, making sure you're getting to jobs on time. So executing the small stuff is what you're trying to do, but then the picture really changes as you get, you know, further along and matured in your business. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense, right? The way that a lot of people approach their business. I mean, asphalt cools pretty quickly. And if you don't have it right now, it's not going to be right in 3 hours.
Yep.
Right. And concrete sets up real fast. And if you don't have it right, if you don't have your grades, if you don't have your slopes, you're not fixing it very easily. And so I get it. There's a lot of that urgency, and I love that about our industry. And so I think some people look at the industry and go like, and these guys are hard. These guys don't care. There's no feelings. It's just the dynamic of what we do.
Yeah.
We have to be quick. We have to be decisive. You have to make choices.
It's critical thinking at
It
its
is.
like
Absolutely. And some people will look at that and go, well, this is a hard place to be, or this is a negative culture, but we all know it's not negative, right? Because we're all working towards that same goal.
Yeah.
And the way that somebody may talk to you in the moment of, hey, you can't compact that any further, right? You know, it's not something that you call a meeting about and you have a little powwow about. And,
get everyone's feedback.
You're going to change it.
Yep.
And I think that that's one of the beautiful parts of this industry is that we do have a lot of people who understand that goal and who understand communication, that, you know, we're all on the same team going towards a result. And the way I communicate may have to be sharp. It may have to be fast. But that doesn't mean that I care about you less.
Right.
You know, and you asked me a question. I've been thinking a lot about it. Is what is it? I think the question was, what is it that makes?
What's a differentiator between Pave America and different platforms, not just other platforms, but other companies in general?
Yeah. You know, I can't speak for every company, obviously, because I haven't met them all.
Sure.
But I can say what I've seen in our group, and I believe is a key differentiator, is the genuine nature of the people in the business. Mm-hmm. And at the core of what we're doing, although this may be hard for some people to believe, is we're really not laying asphalt and pouring concrete. That's not what we do, right? What we're doing is building better communities. That is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what sets us apart. A lot of people get caught up in the make money, right? Lay more tons, put down more yards. But that's not it. We do that. It happens for us. But the reason we're doing it, the motive behind it, that driving force is really building people and building communities. I know for you guys, I've spent time with you. I've spent time with most every president. And that's at the core of what they're doing, right? It's a result. More tonnage, more revenue, bigger crews, all that is a result of something much deeper, of wanting to be better and wanting to build a better community. And although not everybody, and I can't even articulate very well, and most people can't articulate it, that's really what I see in Pave America, is we have a lot of people who are here because they love people, not because they love what they do. They may tell you that they love asphalt. They don't really love asphalt. They love the people.
They love the people. They love the people.
They love the clients they're serving.
That's true.
They love their vendors. They love their employees. They love their community. They love the impact that they're having on employing thousands of families who can be better husbands and fathers and mothers and sisters and wives. That's what it's about. And that's really, I think, what sets us apart, is that that's the ultimate goal. And increased revenue, growth, more tons, more yards, that's just a result.
It's a byproduct.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think to have a good community, you have to have very strong leadership. It sounds like you started pretty young. I didn't realize you were mowing lawns that early. That's awesome.
I think our first client I was 10 years old. Her name was Mrs. Price.
Still remember her, huh?
I do, absolutely. My brother mowed the lawn, and he was like, "Hey, this lady just paid me $10 to mow her lawn," and I was like, "What?" Like, we mow people's lawns all the time and we don't get paid. We mow our lawn, we don't get paid. And she paid? And he's like, "I know." And so we were like, let's ask more people.
Let's go do that.
They're gonna pay.
Yeah.
So we started going around, right, and asking. But yeah, that's kind of, yeah.
I think leadership qualities start at that early age almost, when you are, doing leadership things. You're going to ask for opportunity. You're going to ask for the money at the end of it. You're fixing whatever you need to fix to make sure, right?
Yeah.
We have a ton of great leaders in the platform. I think that was one of the biggest driving forces for us and wanting to be a part of the Pave America team. So, for you, what are some of the driving leadership qualities that you think, I can tell you from the outside looking in, but I know you care about people. I know that's number one. What else do you think makes for a good leader? Good leadership as well.
Yeah, I'm starting to see this a lot more as a really great quality, is one who can pull out and pull up, lift up.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of strong leaders that are great people, and I think at some points in my career, I think I've been a strong leader. But usually when I have got to that point, whatever organization I was in, and I felt like I was a good leader, I really quickly became the bottleneck. And I've been involved in a couple of businesses and different things where, I felt like, hey, I'm doing really well. I'm good at my job. I'm proficient. And then all of a sudden, like, things stopped. And it was me, right? I was that bottleneck. I was the pinch point. And I'm starting to see that, not to call too many people out, but I'll call Tom out. Tom is a great example of that, right? There's a person who's a fantastic leader, who has a great vision, who refuses to be a bottleneck, right? He refuses to be the one that pinches the growth of Pave America. You go into a room with Tom, it's not the Tom show, right? It's us. It's we.
Yep.
And I see that as a great leadership quality. I see it amongst you guys, as you look at your organization, the way that you guys are growing, right? You're bringing leaders up, and you're not afraid.
Building more leaders.
You're not afraid. Yep. And I do think maybe that's another component of true leadership, is being fearless. And sometimes that biggest fear is that I'm going to get cut out, is that this defines me. And if I don't have this, then I have nothing. And I'm afraid. And nobody, again, we're a hardened industry. Nobody's going to say that. Nobody's going to say, hey, I'm insecure and I need to be loved and I need somebody to pat me on the head and say, good job. But it's true. I feel it. You feel it. We all feel it. But to be a great leader, you have to be fearless.
Yeah.
And say, like, I'm okay. I'm okay if I don't get all the credit.
Yeah. And humility.
Yeah.
You're a prime example. So humility, that's awesome. That's really good stuff. And I like the other thing about the leadership within our culture too. I think there's not anyone that's above anybody else in terms of, if I need to go pick up a shovel, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
If there's, Hayden needs to go do something just to set example and make sure, people stay moving, all of us will do whatever we need to do to get the job done. And I don't think that anyone is necessarily above one another.
Yeah.
We all love what we do too.
Yeah.
So
I will say you definitely do not want me on the paver. I'll tell you that. There'd be some warranty.
You and me,
Or the
we
milling
can do
machine.
some
Well,
damage out there.
yeah.
We can do some big damage.
We'd be the first to get fired.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I think going back to your comment on the leadership part as well, it is right. Like, leaders tend to be the bottlenecks. They want to be involved in everything. They want to be copied on all the emails, and they get to a point to where they're trying to be the Superman and involved on everything, to where they're so inundated with day-to-day tasks and messages and people pulling them in different directions that we just don't have any time to give other people. And so that has been a hard part, and that's something I've been working on this year, is like letting it go.
Yeah.
Letting it go, let people fail, make mistakes, but at least passing stuff off.
Yeah.
So that way, if I'm out here, in beautiful Palm Beach, I don't have to be on every single email. I don't have to, nobody's waiting for an approval from me. So it is hard to definitely separate that. My question is, I think it'll probably be the last one. It's going to be a hard question because, us joining.
Who's my favorite? Is that
Yeah. Who would you pick, Zach or I?
gosh, Hayden, you always go there.
I know, right? So my question is, we're seeing private equity enter the contracting space more and more.
Yeah.
There's definitely a divide with people that feel strongly in a good manner of wanting to sell their company, be involved with private equity.
Yeah.
There's also the other half that are just like, you want to keep it family owned and keep private equity and that out of it as much as possible. What is your kind of take and synopsis on private equity coming into our industry as a whole? Is it positive? Is it not?
Yeah.
What do you see with
I think like most things in life, it's not good or bad. It's a tool. Mm-hmm. Right. I think that's a healthy way to look at it. Is that it's a tool, it's a strategy, right? And so, is a hammer something that builds or destroys? It's just a tool. It could build.
Depends on how you
can
use
destroy.
it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I think that is probably the biggest thing to consider, for folks that are looking at it, and saying, well, this is private equity backed. That's like saying there's a hammer on the table. It's what are you going to do with it? And certainly there are negative paths that a person could go down with private equity.
Right.
And certainly there are certain private equity firms that only care about the dollar. Right? And as we talked about before, Pave America is very different. I know a lot of people in this organization that do not need to work, period.
Yeah.
They do not need to work. And every day they're going out and they're doing a very hard, dirty job with very little thanks. And they're not doing it for the money, right? They're doing it for what we're building. And I think that if you can align yourself with equity backers that feel that same way. As I've been involved and gone down the path further and further and met with more and more groups, the thing I'll say is I am pleasantly surprised at how many awesome equity firms are out there. How many people there are out there that really get it. And some of them get it just at their core of who they are, and that's the way that they set up their fund and their firm. Other people I've talked to, they tried it the other way. They tried to just go make money and failed and realized the better way is to focus on people, to focus on process, to focus on what matters, and then it works. And I've got to say, at that upper echelon in private equity, there's a lot of people who figured that out. And it makes me pretty excited, actually, for the future of the trades, because I think there are a lot of people that get it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I like it.
is.
It's the tool, and depends on your perspective, how you look at it. So
Sure.
that's amazing. Well, I think that's good for episode 1 of the Paving America podcast. Got some great insight from you, and super grateful that you spent your time.
Thank you, guys. I'm so grateful that you're putting this together. The team behind you is putting this together. I think it's so important to tell stories, share stories. I'll say the absolute single best thing about Pave America for me, and my position and where I sit, is getting to know the stories.
Yeah.
I really feel like I've got the story on most presidents. Hopefully you'll get more out of them. I can learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for people to hear who these people are at their core, what makes them who they are, because it's inspiring.
Everyone's got one.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
So thank you
I
guys.
agree. Thanks, man.
amazing.
This has been great.
All right, episode 1, Paving America podcast. Thank you.